Okay, let's see. See if people join us. Got my pen. I've got my some tape on here. Got my pen. It's weird. I've got my paper. I've got my life. I've got my hair. Got my hand. Got my liver. I've got my mind. So, right. When we have a student, I'll start. We've got 4 students straight away. Fantastic. Nice to see you. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Robert. I'm Robert. In Scotland, we shorten that down to Rab. That's my girlfriend in the back corner. She's going to work in the living room. So just ignore her, okay? My name's Robert. And in Scotland, we reduce that. We shorten that down to Rab. In England, they do Rob. In America, they often do Bob. But in Scotland, we say Rab. So welcome to the live show. Of course, a quick recap. The reason we are doing this stream is because, hey, Sonia, nice to see you. The reason that we do these... Hey, Noemi, we've got 2 people. Excellent. Anyone, feel free to send in messages. And Chinsia, we've got loads of people. Fantastic. And we've got... the reason we're doing this, just as a reminder, I'm sure you've all forgotten about the dreaded coronavirus COVID-19. So we're going to stay here and have some online webinars. Hey, nice to see you, Julia. Nice to see you, Elisabetta. Fantastic. We have lots of people, and I can see that you can use the text box. So I'm going to look for lots and lots of engagements, okay? Lots of people getting online, typing in, I want to answer. I've got lots of ideas too. Okay? So, at any point, type in. But I know that there is a small lag. Lag is the word that we give to a mechanical or digital delay. The time it takes for me to say it, received by the camera, goes all the way to your computer, and then says it back, and then you type in, comes back to me. This period is called lag time. It's the excess time that we have. So I'm sorry if it is a little bit disjointed, but do get typing, okay? Now, as you can see down here, we have words to live by. That is our focus for today. We have a focus activity, but it's kind of an interesting one. We're going to be looking at reported speech and using reported speech effectively and translating some direct speech into reported speech. And maybe at the end, we can produce some of this. And if you want, we'll give you some homework as well. Depending on how fast we go through it, we may also have time for another focus on gossip. But let's see how we do, because there's a lot in this one, and we'll see if we can produce something really nice and get some really interesting language going on. So I'm going to put myself to the side here and read for us. Actually, I'm going to disappear entirely to help you see properly. I'll be back soon, don't worry. Okay, so words to live by. Let's look at the focus first. You're all familiar with this. I'll take away this banner. We don't need that anymore. Right, in this focus, famous sayings, reported speech, and proverbs. The proverbs are a really interesting part of this, but we are going to start with some famous sayings at the beginning that often turn into proverbs as we go. Someone says it first and then we start all saying it. So let's have a look. We'll go on to the next one. Okay, here we are. Who said it? We have Virginia Woolf, Winston Churchill, William Shakespeare, and Samuel Beckett, all famous people who are famous for having said interesting, famous things. These are just a few of these things. We'll try and find out. If you know, shout out, okay? If you know, get typing in that box and let me know. Here we go. Success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Now, because we're not speaking at home, I want you to really listen to my voice and listen to my pronunciation, especially difficult or words that you don't know. Enthusiasm. Lots of ya sounds. Success consists of, there's a collocation in there, consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. If you know who said that, shout out or type in the box. Second one, dance first. Oh, not. Can everyone hear me? I'm just checking that my microphone is close enough to my voice. Okay, everyone okay? Dance first, think later. It's the natural order. Dance first, think later. It's the natural order. It's a really nice one. I like it. It's really joyous. Keeps me positive. Send a message in if you agree with any of these as well. Say, I agree with the first one. My life is synonymous with the second. Elisabetta Tapiway. We've got something here. We've got Churchill, Beckett, Churchill 1, Beckett 2, Shakespeare 3, Virginia Woolf 4. Let's see if you're right, Elisabetta. We'll see in a second. We've got, can one desire too much of a good thing? Now, Elisabetta says the third one is Shakespeare, so we'll find out if that's true. An interesting part of this statement is the person has used one instead of a subject, so I or you, a pronoun. Can one desire too much of a good thing? One is quite a formal statement, meaning one person, a person. It's quite a formal way of saying a person. Last one cannot think well, love well, sleep well, if one has not dined well. I think I agree with this quite strongly. Let's go through that again. One, the formal, a person. One cannot think well, love well, sleep well, if one has not dined well. So let's break that apart because there's some interesting things there. Often, when you are trying to sound formal, you will not contract. And here we have cannot instead of can't. Hey, Sylvia, nice to see you. So instead of can't, this person has followed one cannot, which is the non-contracted form of can't. If one has not dined well. Now, dine is a strange word because dine is our verb for dinner. Now, of course, in English, you might have learned that in English we say have breakfast, have lunch, have dinner. But in Italian, you have, of course, ceniamo, pranziamo, io pranzo. But in English, we also have this as well. I have some problems with the line, Sonia. I'm not sure. I can't really do anything for it. Is anyone else having problems? Is anyone else just Sonia? If not, don't worry. Try and maybe refresh the page. But coming back to dine is a verb in English. It is a verb. It's just that in 2020, it's really gone out of fashion now. It's not something we use much now. It feels overly formal to dine. I'm dining out tonight. We would use more natural language like I'm going out for dinner or I'm having dinner. It's really generated a more common noun of lunch and dinner. But to lunch and to dine do exist. They're just not common. Okay, let's test and see if Elisabetta was correct in her suggestion. Let's have a look here. So we've got it revealed. Of course, success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Winston Churchill. Absolutely on the money, Elisabetta. Absolutely. On the money is an expression to mean you've got it right. Dance first, think later, it's the natural order. Samuel Beckett. Fantastic. Elisabetta, you've got it again. Can one desire too much of good thing? Three in a row, and that means that the last one is, of course, Virginia Woolf as well. So fantastic, Elisabetta. Did you know already? That's really great quoting knowledge. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is talk about reported speech. Now, in reported speech, we often convert the directed speech into reported speech by using certain words, like these ones in red. To remark, to state, to inquire, to observe. So if you remark something, you have to remark is a verb, so you can conjugate he remarked, but a remark is synonymous for a comment. It's just synonymous with to comment, to say something, to make a statement on something. To state is to say out loud something you believe is true. He stated that the world was flat. Now, it's not flat, but this person believed it, so they stated it, something they believe. To inquire is a formal version of the word to ask. To inquire often includes people you don't know, to ask a question for information. Often things like examples would be in a restaurant, in a theater, in this kind of area. To inquire about. To observe is all about your point of view, and excuse me. To observe means to look at something and understand it. To observe something. And that can often mean making a comment about your observation. To observe in this manner. So, using these kind of words, we would say things like, he observed that success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. He stated, dance first, think later, it's the natural order. He inquired, can one desire too much of a good thing? She observed, one cannot think well, love well, sleep well if one has not dined well. She's seen it and made a comment on it, so she's observed. So I hope they also goes on to ask, what do the quotes mean? Now, I'm not sure we need to worry about that, because are we understanding the quotes well? They're quite clear, I think. Let's not waste too much time on them, but I do think they're good. Do you agree with any of them? I particularly agree with one cannot think well, love well, sleep well if one has not dined well. I'm a big fan of this, for sure. But I also feel quite close to success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. I love the fourth. Wolf, the best quote. Yeah, Elizabeth, I totally agree. I think this definitely makes me happy in this one, and I live my life by it. Okay, we're going to dive on to the next page, because we would quote with quotation marks and tone of voice by saying, he said, he remarked, she stated, and then we would not change the quotation. It stays in that structure. However, there are other forms of reported speech that we do need to change the grammar with. Before we get there, we've got some more vocabulary here to look at. Reporting verbs. Different reporting verbs are used for different sentence categories. we have to memorize which categories they fit into. Now, of course, in school, at this point, I get you to practice out loud. It is important to. So, what I'm going to ask you to do today in this lesson is to type into the box, make examples your own. Now, I will try to answer all of them or correct any or talk to you about some if they're good examples. Now, try and dive in. Don't worry about the lag time. Just try your own examples as we go. Let's look at this. Verbs followed by if or whether. Now, this is often said with asked, said, knew, or inquired. Have a look at our example here. He inquired whether the match would be cancelled. He inquired whether the match would be cancelled. We often use the word whether. Now, I'm Scottish, so my pronunciation is whether with an H. But English people say weather without an H, and I think Americans say it too as well. Whether. Whether the match would be cancelled. Now, this is a good example here, and a strategy for using this word is at the end, can you put or not, the opposite? Because whether is asking about two outcomes. He inquired whether the match would be cancelled or not. So you've got inquired, said, knew, and asked. All of this kind of language is really good with this. If you have an example, shout out, okay? Type it into the box. As you're typing, we're going to go on to the second one. Verbs followed by that. Now, be careful with this one because that is often optional. You can choose to use that, but we do often use it because it expresses and starts up our examples. We really clarify that we're reporting speech. Okay, Elisabetta, let's have a look at your example. If she had asked something, you have always answered properly. Careful with this if. What you're doing is you're constructing a conditional in here. What we're doing is reported speech. So the question would be something like, she had asked something. So we're translating direct speech into indirect speech, into reporting speech. Be a little bit careful here. Look at the example you've got there. You've got, if she had asked something, you have always answered properly. There's a little bit of confusion in there. Look at the example. He inquired whether the match would be cancelled. He inquired if the match would be cancelled or not. That's try an example around that. Try and use this construction here. If he inquired whether the match would be cancelled. Moving on again to that, which is often optional. We use it with said, told, stated, confirmed, observed, promised, and remarked. She confirmed that she would be late. She promised that she wouldn't be late. She remarked that she is often late. She observed that the students are never late. Very good students. Let's have a look and see. Okay, Danae, let's have a look at yours. He said whether someone could help him or not. Excellent. Excellent. So the direct speech in here would be, could someone help me or not? Or he said something along those lines. Okay, great example. Good one. If anyone else, keep them coming, okay? I'm really liking the examples. Sonia's turn, this one. She promised that she would come to my birthday party. Excellent. Now notice in this that is optional here. She promised she would come to my birthday party. All the function of that does is it's like a filler word that really clarifies where we're reporting the speech here. Really nice. Okay, let's look at the last one here. We've got verbs followed by an infinitive. We often follow asked, decided, promised, remembered. Look at the example. The student promised to finish his homework. Hey, Maria Antonietta, lovely to see you. Maria is saying hi to everyone. Okay, now we're going into this as well with verbs followed by an infinitive. This construction is probably the most logical and easiest to use. The student promised to finish his homework. The student decided. You're just reporting something that he said. For example, I've decided to finish my homework. Reporting that statement would be the student promised or decided to finish his homework. We've got remembered to do something as well. This is quite direct. So we can use it quite well. Keep those examples coming to me, people. If and whether are some of the hardest ones here. So keep remembering this. I'm going to create a little banner. If and whether. Guys, try and use some of these. I'm going to show it down here. If and whether. That can stay with us for a little bit in the next one. Let's move on though, because we have a lot to look at and we have some examples that will help us look at them. So I think if and whether is going to get in the way, but never mind. Let's look at the top. Like that. Reported speech in different tenses. Now, previously, we were kind of staying in the idea of he inquired, and the tense is often the same. He said, back here in the last bit here, he remarked, he stated, she inquired, etc. But now we need to construct another type of reported speech. Let's look at yours, Elisabetta, before we move on. She said that she couldn't come before finish her homework. Careful. The construction is really nice. The construction is excellent. She said that she couldn't come before, but finish is the object of this sentence. So we need to put that into the gerund form, before finishing her homework. Finishing her homework would be the object. So homework doesn't need that S either because homework is uncountable. But the structure is excellent. Let's have a look at the next one. The FIFA president confirmed that the next matches are playing without supporters. Now, this bit is really good. The first construction is excellent, but we're going to look at the second part, are playing without supporters. We're going to look at why that needs to change in the next slide. Remember, this is in present continuous here. Let's have a look at one more and then we'll move on. She asked whether I could play the piano. Excellent example, Sonia. Absolutely fantastic example. Controlling whether really, really well. Okay, we're going to look at this, and this is going to explain to us why that present continuous needs to change. Let's look at it. When using reported speech, we normally shift back a tense from the direct speech statement. So, for example, the direct speech, I'm playing the guitar. So someone says this. What are you doing? I'm playing the guitar. Present continuous. I'm playing the guitar. And like your example, the matches are playing. reported speech, we need to change that back a tense. He said that he was playing the guitar. So several things have changed here. We need to change the subject. We need to use that, or we have the option of using that with said. And we also have changed the present continuous into the past continuous. So it has gone back a step, back a tense. Have a look at the second one. I have seen Juventus play. I have seen Juventus play. Now that's present perfect. Have seen our past participle, of course. Now, present perfect is describing something in the past. So if we're going to describe something in the past that describes something in the past, we need to change to past perfect, one step back again. Our example, he told me he had seen Juventus play. So again, we're moving back in time. We're starting at present statement, moved back a point in time, past continuous. If we start from a past statement, I have seen, talking about the past, we need to then describe it in a relationship of the past, which we use past perfect for. It's really useful. Okay, let's continue and look at the last one. We were performing at the gig. Oh, I need to change this video so you can see me, see the material. We were performing at the gig. Past continuous. So again, it's that talking about the past. We're talking already in our direct speech about the past. So we need to move it back again. But this time we would use, let's see if we can find out, the past perfect continuous. They explained that they had been performing at the gig. They had been performing at the gig. Okay, so all of that confusing stuff, lots of things to work with, lots of things to remember, lots of things to use quickly and fast without hesitating, because we need to use it in natural speech. Okay, I don't expect you to do it right now, but what we're going to do is find some examples that we can work with and maybe get a bit faster with. So we have, before we go on to too much, actually, we've got another exercise coming up. We're going to do it there. But before we get there, we also need to look at modals, modal verbs, because these often change as well. Okay, when we use modals in reported speech, often the tense of the modals changes as well. Now we need to be careful with this because some of this I need to identify how the modal is functioning. Is it functioning in a tense or is it functioning in a conditional? If it's functioning in a conditional, it does not need to change because the conditional is still something hypothetical or imagined. Whereas if we're using it in the future tense, in the past tense, we need to change it. So let's look at this because it'll be clearer with some examples. Excuse me. I can run a marathon. Present simple with a modal, can. Can allows us to know that it's a statement changing the verb. Reported speech. She said that she could run a marathon. That can now depends on a certain period of time. Maybe today she can't, but she said she could. So we need to move that into the past as well. Looking down, we may go to the party tonight. May will change. They told me that they might go to the party tonight. Now, I personally disagree with this. This is not because it is not grammatically correct. It is grammatically correct. If you use may, you would change to use might. But this is 2020 again. We are using modern English, and may is a word which is going out of fashion again. It's like one or inquire. Inquire is more useful than may. If you find yourself using may a lot, be careful because you sound very formal. May is disappearing in our language. It's similar to must as well. Must. I don't even know the last time I used the word must out of an English lesson. I always use have to or don't have to, whatever I'm using. I definitely never use the word may. But if you do use it, reported speech, it needs to change into might. Now, I would just say, I might come tonight. And then that reported speech would stay. He said he might come. So that one for me is not super important. Let's go back to the text. We've got, it will rain tonight. Will is a modal. Will is talking about a prediction. So here, he predicted that it would rain tonight. Now, will is in the future, but when it's situated in the past, we would change it to would. Now, be careful because we're entering into a world of conditional phrases. Will becomes would, but would will stay as would if it's a conditional phrase. Would you be available? He asked, would I be available? Or he asked if I would be available, would be nice as well. We often use it in that manner. So would doesn't change, but will does change to would. Okay, things to remember from this slide are can, could, will, would. They're the main parts on this one, I think. Okay, moving on. Let's get some examples. It's over to you guys to start working now. Convert these direct speech statements into reported speech. Luis can run like the wind. Rachel went to Mexico. I will never be late again, I promise. Okay, I'm just going to quickly jump on. While you guys are working, I'm going to come to Erica's question. Hi guys, my question is, why do we use the past perfect continuous in the third, in the previous slide, and not the past continuous? Okay, let's go back to it very briefly because we can clear that up quite quickly. So, whoops, sorry, I'm flapping around. Past continuous in here. So in the third one, if you'll notice, past continuous, this is easier if I describe it with my hands. This is the direct speech in present. I am eating a sandwich. The reported speech is now someone telling another person about this statement, but this statement is now existing in the past. And the statement that's existing in the present is the he said. He said, or he was eating a sandwich. He said he was eating a sandwich. We can change it. So remember, we've got these 3 points. We've got this bit in the present tense, past tense. But when that first statement is stated in the past tense, yesterday I had a sandwich, in the past tense, or yesterday I was reading my book at 2 p.m. This is stated in the past, so we need to shift it down again. So we have the present statement describing something in the past that is describing another thing in the past. So we need to describe these two, and the tense that we describe two actions in the past is past perfect. And it's a continuous form, so we would keep that continuous in there, past perfect. So in the example, just to be very clear, we were performing at the gig. So present statement, talking about a past statement, a past action, we were performing. And then reported speech, this statement here, he said he had been performing. So he said, this moment here, he had been performing. So we need that relationship. I hope that helps, Erica. I hope that clears that up and it's not too confusing. We need to move everything back a step. Okay, we've got all of this kind of language. I want you guys to get back on thinking, working hard. Working hard, guys. Make sure you're doing well. I want you to translate. Luis can run like the wind. Rachel went to Mexico. I will never be late again, I promise. And remember our said, stated, promised, all of this kind of language. Boasted. He said that he could run like the wind. Fantastic. Show that one up here. Nice to see you. He said that he could run like the wind. Excellent. And Elisabetta, you were on that as well. He said that he could run like the wind. Thank you, Erica. I'm glad I could help. Excellent. Okay. He said that he could run like the wind. Excellent. Both occasions are perfect. We also have other words like boast. He boasted that he could run like the wind, saying that he was better than other people. Try the next one, people. Get on it. Rachel went to Mexico. Rachel went to Mexico. Who's going to be first? Who's first on that keyboard? Rachel went to Mexico. Maybe he was in love with Rachel, and instead of observing, he lamented. To lament comes from the Italian lamentare. To lament is a formal word for sadly complain. To sadly complain. Okay. Yep. We've got this really well. Louis said that he ran the wind. Absolutely. Could. Don't forget that could in there. Definitely important. Okay. Noemi. He asked if Rachel went to Mexico. I love that if in there. And it's a question, so you can absolutely use that if. Fantastic. Excellent example. He asked if Rachel went to Mexico. He inquired. Fantastic. Okay, on to the next one, guys. Noemi got there first. Rachel said to go to Mexico. Careful, Sylvia. We need to use that past tense. She asked if now. Actually, sorry, I want to slow down a little bit here. Rachel went to Mexico. My mistake. I want to slow down here. He asked if Rachel now went needs to change from past simple. So went is past simple. It needs to move down again to. Anyone got it? Anyone see the correction? Rachel went to Mexico. He asked if Rachel. Who's going to be first? We need to change it to past perfect. She told that she had gone. That's the one, Chinzia. That's the one, Chinzia. Had gone. She asked if Rachel had gone to Mexico. She's not here, so we would use had gone. Be careful, Elisabetta. Have been. First, it would be third person, so has. And it's in the past perfect, so we need to go had been. Absolutely. Sonia, where are you? Where's your previous comment? She asked, yes. Sorry, Sonia, absolutely. All the way at the top. It's difficult to manage all these comments. He asked if Rachel had gone to Mexico. Fantastic, Sonia. Good example. Really, really good. Okay, so I need to now hide that again. There we go. Hide. I will never be late again, I promise. Anyone who wants to try this one? Now be careful, Erica. Would go is not correct because would go would be conjugating will. Okay, sorry. Well, I'm losing my place. Here we go. Right, we have a comment here. He said that he would never been late. He said that, careful. So promise is a great one. We don't need been here because we conjugate the modal here. He would never be late. He stated he would never be late again. This is an excellent example, definitely. This is good, but have a look at this one. This one's fantastic as well. She promised that she would never be late again. Now, the thing that's interesting here is I will never be late again, I promise. We don't always say promise in this sentence, but you need to identify the function is a promise and say she promised she would never be late again. This kind of language. Okay, let's reveal all of this because it's you guys have done super duper. He said that Louis could run like the wind, stated and claimed all of this kind of language would work. She asked if Rachel had gone to Mexico. Now be careful of that had gone. We need to conjugate went into had gone. I will never be late again. That would is the part that we need to change. I would. Okay, we're doing great, guys. We've got lots of engagement. You're all in, and I love how fast you're typing. Let's keep up that pace. But the first thing I'm going to do is explain some of this language. If you can summarize any of this quickly in text, feel free. It's a great exercise to do. But this is going to be me speaking for a bit as well. Please do answer this. Oh, before we move on, Elisabetta, she said that she would be careful of that location of never in here. Before we move on, I just want to clear up never in here. Now, if I take your comment away, he promised that he would never be. It goes in between the modal and the to be, the verb. So just be careful of the location of that. Okay, we're going to move into some wise words. Wise words. Now, for those of you that don't know the word wise, wise is an adjective that describes the words. And in its noun, it's wisdom. And wisdom is like intelligence, but intelligence that is a little bit deeper, slower, longer. It's maybe more attached to the lived experience, the life. And we often say that older people have wisdom, or we notice it when younger people have a lot of wisdom. We describe certain animals as wise as well, like as wise as an owl is an idiomatic phrase. Okay, let's look at the ones that we have in front of us. Two wrongs don't make a right. So we're reading the famous proverbs and deciding what they mean to you. Two wrongs don't make a right. It's kind of cryptic. Two wrongs. So wrong, okay, we're using it as a noun. Two things that are wrong. Two wrongs don't make a right, are not equal to a positive, a good thing. So right and wrong is often an adjective, but here we're using them as nouns to describe a thing. Two wrong things don't make a right thing. So two bad behaviors don't create a good behavior. This is a saying that means that if someone does something bad to you, doing something bad to them does not make it right, does not make it good. It's a warning against vengeance, against revenge, that another more bad actions don't create justice or an equality of right. It doesn't equal right. Oh, the second one. No man is an island. No man is an island. It's an interesting one. This one really talks about the human experience. An island is, of course, a bit of land that is cut off or isolated from other land, other bits of land, with no connection. Now, describing a person as an island would mean that they have no connection to the world. So this description here, no man is an island, is a statement that says, don't forget you depend on other people, you learned from other people, and that you also have an effect on other people. So no man is an island. It's a nice expression. It reminds people not to be selfish or not to be, yeah, on their own. Fortune favors the bold. Now, for this one, I think there's an Italian translation you guys have. Bold is the word that we need to control here because fortune is just a formal word for luck. Favors is looks well on or helps. And the bold is important to understand. Bold, the first place you will find bold is in your word processor. So when you're typing on the computer and you have normal text, but you want to make that text thicker, more eye-catching, something you can see better, bigger and stronger, you click the bold button, which in English is a B that has a strong outline. Bold, when we're talking about text or images, means contrasting. Aha, we've got a good example here. Both of these. We've got La fortuna aiuta gli audaci. Now, that's interesting because we also have the word audacious. And audacious, we've got it just under here. Bold is audacious. Fantastic. So audacious is the more formal, more archaic form of bold. Often in English, when the root of our language comes from Latin, it's often the more archaic, the more formal form. Intelligent is a really good example of this because actually we often use the word smart or clever, but intelligent would be the formal version of that. Audacious is, of course, related to your audaci, and bold would be our more native, our more natural word. Okay, so we're using this well, we're understanding it well. What does it mean? Of course, those people who try are more likely to succeed. You need to be brave. You need to be brave to go on. Okay, there's no place like home. I think this one's actually pretty straightforward. This one's pretty clear, right? There's no place like home. Now, I love Milan. I really enjoy living here. But when I go home to Edinburgh in Scotland, of course, I see it differently and I feel it differently because I grew up there. So no place is like home because you don't know it the same way. Now, home can change, of course. Now, the early bird catches the worm. The best place in the world is home. I'm not sure that there's no place like home. So yeah, it's normally used to describe home sweet home. The best place in the world is home. Definitely. But certainly it's for me as a foreigner, it's taken a new meaning because it's really for me it describes a place. It's just that it's different. But for sure, the saying means what you're saying, home sweet home. You're absolutely correct. I love that expression, home sweet home. And a dash. Okay, the next one, the early bird catches the worm. I think this is another favorite of mine, not because of this one, but because of the second sentence that not everyone knows. The early bird catches the worm. Do we understand it? Person, the bird being the person who wakes up in the morning, gets out into the field and eats the food before other things arrive. So, for example, in entrepreneurship or for hard workers, people who get up and respond to their responsibility, they get the rewards. If you're lazy and you stay in bed, then there's a big chance that you will miss the opportunity. Miss the opportunity. However, I actually really like the second part. I can't remember where this is from. I think this was from somewhere in the Middle East. But the second mouse gets the cheese. I'm going to type that in here and show it on the bottom. The early bird catches the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese. I think this is really interesting. Okay, just to remember, oh, there's an Italian translation, is there? Chi dorme non piglia pesci. Lovely, I love it. Definitely, all of these comments are excellent. The earlier you arrive, the more likelihood you have of winning or getting the prize. But the second mouse gets the cheese. Of course, what happened to the first mouse? Where was the cheese? The cheese was in a trap. Bang! And the first mouse was killed by the trap. So this is a business idiom suggesting that, okay, it's good to be a quick starter and to get entrepreneurship going forwards fast. But the first people often find the biggest problems first and can suffer from the problems first. Whereas the follower, the second person can see those problems and change strategy. So I quite like that addition at the end. Second mouth gets the cheese. Last one, better late than never. This is a classic for telling people that it's okay that they've been late. It's better late than never, for sure. This one's quite straightforward. Okay, because we have only 9 minutes left, I'm going to move on to the last exercise here, because what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at, if I find the right page, we're going to look at an interview with Umberto Eco. Very quickly, we're going to just read through and produce the reported speech. And at the last minute, I'm going to introduce a little bit of homework that you guys can do. That's right, I said homework. I want you guys thinking at home and producing this language, okay? And hopefully you're up for it. So let's get into this quickly, do the reported speech, and talk about that homework. Okay, so we're going to look at this. We have the interview with Umberto Eco, and our task is to convert direct speech from the interviewer and Umberto Eco into reported speech. Remember to use the correct tense form. Now, I'm going to just read through this in my normal voice, so please follow if you can. What do you think of America? I have been, with this time, 55 times in America. I feel pretty at home. You've traveled a lot. Do you have a favorite place? Many, but if I had to select a place to live in other than Italy, it would be New York or Paris. Who would you cite as your important literary predecessors? Certainly, because I have written a book on Joyce, Joyce has been an influence, for sure. Okay, so we've got all of this direct speech. Before we move on here, we're going to try and do some quick reported speech. Now, I'm just going to give you these examples, but the homework relates to this. It relates to finding a report, an interview, and trying to translate it. So let's see. The interviewer inquired what he thought of America, he being Umberto Eco. So, we often use conjunctive so to link this kind of report. So, Umberto Eco replied that he had been, past perfect, had been with that time, be careful, this needs to translate to that, with that time, 55 times in America. And that, so we can use an extra one for a point, and that he felt pretty at home. The second question the interviewer asked, he stated He stated Umberto Eco had traveled a lot, and inquired or asked, did he have a favorite place? Or if he had a favorite place is maybe better, going back to our previous statement. He inquired if he had a favorite place. Umberto Eco replied that he had many, but if he had to select, had to is a modal here, but we don't need to change it because it's in the past. If he had to select a place to live in other than Italy, it would be New York or Paris. So would is already in that would form. Then the interviewer asked who would Umberto Eco, or who would he cite as his important literary predecessors? And Umberto Eco stated or replied, certainly, because he had written a book on Joyce, that Joyce had been a great influence. Okay, we've got all this direct speech here that we've changed into indirect. Let's do the opposite direction. I want you guys thinking as I'm speaking here, preempting, predicting my answers. The interviewer asked Umberto Eco what his literary influences were. So that's our reported speech. Now we want to shift forward a tense to describe the question. This question is, of course, what are your literary influences? Okay, we're zooming through this, guys. We're doing great. Umberto Eco said that his literary influences were, great, said that his were, all important. Now we need to change my, so his would be my literary influences are diverse. So are is in here. The interviewer inquired whether Umberto Eco had a favorite place. Do you have a favorite place? So we've got whether. I used if before, no problem. Are we still with me? My literary influences are great. Staying ahead of the game, Sonia. Fantastic, really quick. Okay, staying in here, we have the last one. Umberto Eco remarked that if he had to live in another country, he would live in New York or Paris. Is of course described as I would live in Paris or New York. Okay, great. So guys, what we've done very quickly, because we're running out of time, is we took an interview, all in direct speech, some expressed in past simple, past continuous, present perfect, but it's still direct speech because it's in a conversation talking about what they think. But we've used that interview to generate some reported speech. Reported speech is very common in newspapers or reviews or magazines where they are reporting. They are reporting some interviews or speeches between actors and interviewees or footballers, sports people, and their the public, this kind of thing, the press. So this comes on to the last bit, the homework that I'd like to get you guys to do. You have for me 3 bits of homework you can choose from in various degrees of seriousness. I'm going to introduce the first bit of homework with this slide here. Let's have a look. You have been selected to deliver this year's Harvard commencement address. In pairs, okay, you can do it in pairs if you know each other, but individually. Write a short paragraph to be included in your inspirational speech, based on one of the proverbs that we studied earlier. Consider the meaning of the proverb and the theme that the proverb relates. So, just one paragraph on one of these forms. Future favors the bold, there is no place like home, and obviously bravery, spirit, contentment, comfort, responsibility, duty, commitment, dedication, and unity, community, and friendship. So really, if you want to, you can screen print this page now and remember this, to write a short one, and your reported speech can be used to describe previous people like Winston Churchill or James Joyce, or literary people like Eco. You could quote them by saying that they had blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's our first optional homework. Now we've run out of time, so I'm going to do this really quick. First optional homework. Second optional homework is to find an interview in a magazine or a newspaper or online in a blog and translate that. Try to think about how to transpose that into reported speech. And third, maybe the easiest, the third optional homework is just think about a previous conversation that you had. Maybe you were listening to two colleagues bitching about work, talking about work. Maybe you heard your neighbor having a fight with his or her girlfriend, boyfriend. Maybe you listened to, I don't know, someone on the street talking about something. Think about how you could tell a friend about that conversation in reported speech, expressing these things. Okay, I am done for the hour. I'm going to say goodbye, but a quick roundup is we were looking at reported speech, and remember, when it's in present tense, we need to shift it to past. When it's in past, we need to shift it to past perfect, so it has the relationship there. And also, I'll leave you with the early bird gets the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese. Okay, nice to see you guys. See you soon, hopefully. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and hopefully see you next time. Bye. Bye. Have a great day. Okay, I'm going to end the broadcast.